Today is Thursday, July 11th. Welcome to the digital version of Adam and Keenan. And I say that because we were filming this before July 11th because he's currently in Mexico as you're watching this.
At Niños de Mexico on the mission trip.
And I'm currently at Maranatha Bible Camp, which I'm not wearing a shirt for. But I'm hanging out. I'm hanging out with a bunch of middle schoolers from our church. Some of them might be your children. We're having a great time. I already know that because camp is awesome. Every time we go to camp, we have a great time. But we wanted to make sure that we got to talk about this question with you, wrestling through what did Jesus say about social justice that we got to talk about on Sunday with you as well. The first question is this: have you personally experienced what Jesus said, quote, "No prophet is acceptable in his hometown," end quote? Why do you think that is? I don't normally do this, but I would like to say, Adam, I think you're best qualified to answer this question.
Why is that?
Here's the deal. I thought you would know. Here's the reason.
We haven't talked about these yet.
I know. I thought you would catch where I was going with this. Here's the deal. Like Carl Junction and Connect Christian Church, like the city, the church. I am new. Like I've been here a decade, but I didn't grow up here. I grew up in Joplin. I grew up at a different church with a different church family. This is your family, right? And so, not in the context you guys have been accepting. So please don't hear that. But coming back to a hometown and coming back to your home church, you might feel that way a little bit the first time.
You're right, absolutely. I was thinking along those lines of what to say, and you started talking, and I was like, oh, what are you going to say? And you're like, adult talk. Yes. So here I am. Really, I do feel this. 2015, in about the month of, I don't know, May, maybe, somewhere in there, there began to be this kind of process happening to move my family back to Carl Junction. And I wasn't sure. I'll be honest. I've told this publicly before. It's no secret at all. I resisted. I liked where I was. I loved the town I was in. I was happy the church I was part of. All these things. Nothing was going bad. We loved things, and it was all so good. And then finally, we ended up, my wife saying, maybe God's trying to do something. And so we said maybe and looked through it, and here I am. One of the main reasons that I wasn't sure when to come back was because of this concept.
Yeah.
No prophets, except in their hometown. And this is my hometown. And coming back to the church where I grew up, where I was in the nursery, where I was in the kids ministry. I as a teenager, I worked in our kids ministry. I ran puppets and things, and I grew up in our teen ministry, and there was, things I got in trouble for. People still here knew that from my childhood, and I didn't want to come back and be this kid, and so I resisted. Finally, God made it evident He was calling us back here, and so we're here. And I will say, I'll agree with you, it's been awesome. Mostly. It's been so good to be back at our church. I love our church and our family, and I love the Connect Christian Church. I love what God's been doing here through us. But along the way, there are some people that I grew up knowing that are not here anymore. And part of it is because occasionally there was a difference in where the church is going to go, and a structuring thing, and I grieve those things and mourn those losses, but it's hard to go back there to be home, which is why then, if I can segue this in, this is why I think people struggle. One of the reasons we struggle to be sent, you are sent to go to work and to go to school and to go to your neighborhood, to go to places where you live life. This is not a church building anymore. This is not a place where you gather once a week. This is not an oikos. This is not a midweek group. This is now where you spend 40 plus hours a week.
Yeah.
And now to go in and tell people about Jesus, you are now a prophet in your hometown. That's a hard thing to do.
Yeah, because people know you. They know your mouth. They know the language you use. They know all these things that probably cause you to have concern and worry. And you are probably thinking, man, I don't have that trouble anymore. But they knew you when you did. And so I think sometimes it hinders the message, and it hinders the messenger when people hold on to our past, right? So with Jesus, I think Jesus had this problem going back to his hometown because they were like, oh, I remember when Jesus would go play soccer with my boys, and Jesus always scored the goal. Jesus always won, or whatever. I don't know. I just feel like Jesus would always win because he's Jesus. I don't know if that's true or not. Speculation. But the point is, though, going home is hard. And I think in your guys' case, and I want to say this for you, church, you guys have done a great job of allowing Adam to lead, allowing him to fill the position God has called him to do. But I think a lot of us struggle with this, going home, going to our places, because we don't get the grace to do that. And so I think you can experience, just like Adam talked about, in your workplaces, in your home, in your daily life, you can experience a little bit of what Jesus felt going home. And proclaiming this message of good news that God has shown up and do this wonderful thing, and people just don't want to listen. It's not the same, because they literally took Jesus, who they knew, and were willing to kill him. They're not going to try to throw you off a cliff and kill you. Jesus' family, because they would have been extended family members, cousins, distant cousins, his relatives, people he grew up with, literally went from liking him to saying, we don't like that you're talking like that, and tried to kill him. So you don't have that experience, but you may have a feel of experience of what it's like to be ostracized, to be kicked out, to go into your hometown and not feel welcomed. What happens when a church is concerned about spiritual needs and not social justice? What happens when a church is more concerned about social justice than spiritual needs? I said this on Sunday, and so I'm going to go ahead and say it again now. You cannot have social justice without starting with Jesus. We live in a world that loves to promote. We live in a culture, especially in America, we start with social justice. We want people to be equal. We want them to have on the same level of playing field. We want to do everything over here, and then we try to do policies. Politics never get the justice you want. If you want really social justice, if you want the justice that comes along with the kind of equality that you're longing for, it starts with Jesus. Jesus only. Jesus' kingdom. No political party will ever deliver it. Only Jesus can. And because of that, we start with Jesus. And all that we say and all that we do. But it starts with the spiritual thing. But there are basic needs of people. Jesus met people in their basic needs. He told his disciples when they went out, if they had extra tunics or things, to give it to people, to take care of people's needs, so that way they would listen to the message. In reverse, going with the other question about social justice, you can never truly accomplish the social justice you're longing for unless people get to Jesus. So you need to do it through the lens of the kingdom.
Yeah. It's also, there's two extremes. You're describing this, and two extremes that we live at, where, on this side it's Jesus, and I have friends that I love, that love the Lord, love the Word of God, and they live for worship experiences, and the whole emotional gathering point, all these things. There's that, right? And they almost put their head in the sand about what's wrong with the world.
Yeah.
I have other friends that said, forget that. We need to stop human trafficking. True. We need to change the drug problem. True. We need to fix the government. True. We need to do this. True. But Jesus isn't in it. And if you live at either extreme, honestly, you are just spinning your wheels in the mud. Either extreme.
Yeah.
I don't want to sound wrong, but if you live only in Jesus, that's true. Only in the world, that's true. You almost need to do the two together. You need to take the experience you have worshiping Jesus, and you need to embed that within the world that's around us, and that's when we really see traction happen with biblical justice going on.
Because that's what Jesus did. Jesus lived in the middle. The Jewish people lived in the extreme. They lived in the rules and the regulations, and God wants us to do this. And Jesus said, you're right, but this is how you do it. Yeah. You live it here. And so we got to choose to live there as well. Number 3, what makes a church welcoming to outsiders? What could we do better to make outsiders feel welcome? I'm going to say this right now. I had a meeting literally about a week ago with a young lady in our church who's brand new, and I asked her, what do you like about our church? And this is literally the thing she said. She was an outsider, showed up. She's like, you guys were the first people who were so intentional with me. I was like, what does that mean? She's like, I visited some other churches, and they had no idea if I was there or not. She said, I was here for a week and a half, and some of your staff members, some of your church people reached out to me and say, hey, how are you doing? We missed you this last Sunday. Is there anything you need? She's like, that was a game changer for me. In my neighborhood, in the North Heights neighborhood where we've planted a Saturday night church, we have some people coming, and I've asked them the same thing. What do you love about our church? They've not been in church in decades. And he said, your people actually like me. And I was like, what is that? They're like, I've been to churches and they put on smiles and stuff because they're supposed to, but you can get a sense from them that they don't really care that you're there. You all actually like me, my mess, my story, because you want me to love Jesus. That's how you create a welcoming place.
Absolutely. Just to agree with that and add a couple words, I preach a lot. You preach quite a bit.
Mm-hmm.
Others preach as well. We want good preaching, and I'm probably biased in this, but I think we have pretty good preaching at our church.
Mm-hmm.
I think we have pretty good teaching in our groups and our gatherings. I think we have pretty good leaders in our oikoses. I think we have great musicians. I love our people that lead us in music and in worship and those things. And there's a high quality, I believe, in our gatherings. That does not make people who are outside the church connect in.
Mm-hmm.
None of it does. Those are good things to have. That is not what's going to see the church continue to make inroads into a community.
Yeah.
The most important ministry in our church, I'm going to make a statement. I might regret this later. The single most important ministry in our church is the people that open the door on Sunday mornings and Saturday nights.
Absolutely agree.
That's it. The people that open the door, because they're the ones that learn a name and then greet by name next time we walk in the door. They're the ones that open the door and smile. They're the first line that says, hey, are you okay? What's bothering you? What's going on here? They're the ones. If you want to truly make a difference and you're looking for the most important ministry you're part of, jump into that team.
Yeah.
That's the team that makes people who are outside our church say, oh, I think I want to be here.
Can I add to that? Because I actually agree firmly with that. I would say though that it's all, if you're an adult outsider in the church coming to the church, the door greeter is the first place. But there are door greeters, quote unquote, in other ways. If you're a kid, the door greeter is your classroom teacher.
Mm-hmm.
They really have no idea at the doors who people are. If they get to a classroom though, and Rebecca's ministry and the people that she's and or the team she has down there, those of you who are teaching, when you know a kid by name because you're serving on a month rotation and you're excited they're there, you are the door greeter in that situation. Yeah. So you can jump into that too.
And that's so important. Sometimes people say, well, I can't teach our kids because I don't know enough myself. And let me, I don't want to be demeaning to our teachers. None of our kids remember the lesson. If you think I'm wrong, or you're like, oh, wait a minute, Adam, that's not meant to be offensive. If you grew up in the church like I did, I cannot tell you one single lesson I learned ever in kids ministry. I can't tell you one single message I ever heard as a student in teen ministries. I can't tell you all the details of the sermon I preached last week. But what I can tell you is the names of the adults that loved me when I was a second grader, third grader, fourth grader, fifth grader, a junior high, high school kid, a college kid. I can tell you the names of the people that forgave me when I was a dumb teenager. I can tell you all those things. It doesn't matter how qualified you feel. You can be the door greeter.
Yeah.
Wherever it's at.
And just in that statement, I agree with I don't remember tons of sermons at all. I only remember a few. But really they're minuscule. I remember names of people who showed up for me, who loved me despite my flaws. And if just to quote literally the people I've already quoted at the beginning of this, the people who are new to our church who used to be outsiders, none of them can talk to you about what they learned. All of them point to people who remembered them and loved them.
Yeah, absolutely.
Last question. On a scale of 1 to 10, how well are you at fulfilling these two sides of the Great Commission? What are you convicted about doing to improve in one of these areas? Side 1 is sharing the truth about Jesus. Side 2 is showing the compassion of Jesus. I think on a scale of 1 to 10 is hard because it's all in the eye of the beholder, right? Because like my 7 might be your 9 or whatever. But from my viewpoint, I don't know where I would rank it on a scale of 1 to 10. But I do know that I naturally like sharing the truth about Jesus more than I naturally show compassion to people. I think we all are hardwired one way or the other, and we have to learn to be better at the other. And so I'm learning all the time from some good friends in my life. I have some good friends who balance me, have how to show compassion, because I want to be like, let's just teach this, let's just do this, let's just fix everything, when I need to do both and live in both. And I need friends who are willing to call me out to help me have both well.
Yeah, it goes in seasons. Honestly, I sometimes feel like I'm a bowling ball, and when the bumpers are up, you're just bouncing back and forth all the time. Because I can lean hard into the truth season, and then I can lean equally hard into the compassion season, wherever I'm at. I would say if I were convicted of what to do next, either one of these things here, was showing the truth. I mean, I've been convicted that I need to be more vocal with people.
Mm,
Lately, I've met a lot of people outside the church here lately, and I need to be more vocal with them right now. I need to speak the words of Jesus.
yeah,
And with the compassion, I need to put myself into more places where there are hurts.
yeah,
I find it too easy to hide behind the happy, shiny walls of people that pretend at least to have it all together. I need to put myself in places where there's hurt,
yeah.
so I show compassion.
If you want to grow in these areas, because we're trying to grow in these areas too, and you're struggling what to do next, I would love for you to talk to one of us. There are so many things we do around the church that we don't always preach about, we don't always talk about, from pastoral ministries to checking in on widows and widowers, and going to the hospital and serving at a homeless shelter. And there's lots of things we do, and there's lots of things that we can teach you so you could be more bold in sharing the truth. Talk to us about it. Send us an email, shoot us a message, pull us aside on Saturday or Sunday, and say, hey, I'm struggling with this area. Could you help?
Yeah.
Because you can't get better at something until you're willing to name where you're having issues.
Yeah.
Church, I hope you wrestle through this, and I hope you're having just a great time of wrestling through what does it look like to preach the truth in love to a culture that desperately needs Jesus. And we cannot wait to gather again with you on Saturday and Sunday. I know Adam and his team are hoping to be back Sunday, so if you're watching this, they're hoping to be here Sunday. Ask them about their trip. If you run into our middle schoolers, you run into Chase, who probably will look exhausted because middle school week of camp is tiring. It's fun, but it's tiring. Ask about it. That would be so awesome to be able to share stories about what God's doing. Church, until we see you again, you are sent. Have a great day.